Steve Lippman is with us. He is the president of Lifestyle Fitness Corp. And, of course, that is a franchise from Fitness Together. And we've been talking about a number of different issues. One, it's truly an epidemic that people are not taught how to exercise when they are young people, and unfortunately, in today's day and age, there's not a lot we can do about that right now, is there? With budget cuts everywhere.
Well, this is a big debate actually. With budget cuts, I think what we're looking at is, can other people help us take care of that problem?
If they've got to let go teachers, the easy one to let go is the phys ed teacher, unfortunately.
Well, look at your schools, and just to finish up that part of the conversation, Dennis, with the schools. When the budgets are cut, then what happens is we as parents are paying individually for kids' sports. So if my son wants to play more than one sport, we're paying for it, which is okay. But I think the point here, and really the message is, and what I like to talk about, is that we can get angry at a lot of things. We can get angry at the fact that there's budget cuts. Well, there's less of a revenue base to pay for those services. But we can't rely on the government. We can't rely on the insurance company and the medical institution to fix our problems. And this is what I say is, of course, there are several things that are driving healthcare costs. But what people don't realize is that we can do something about it. So if we can do something in a preventative way, we can save money.
Good. Let's start right here, right now, today, Steve. What can we do about it?
Well, I think, and this is why one of the reasons I'm here today, Dennis. I own 4 studios, so I'm spread out. I've got I just came from my Dedham location. I have one in Westboro, and I have 2 in the South Shore. One in Norwell and one in Cohasset. But throughout the state, there are more than 40 fitness togethers. And in fact, there's some in Rhode Island as well. And so, we've had this conversation. We say, what can we do to be proactive about this? So, long story short, my manager in Westboro was involved in a walk last year. The Diabetes Association has a walk, Step Out, and it's really to fight diabetes, to raise money. So I said, what? I said, what do you want to do? She says, I'd like to be a part of this walk and get my clients involved. She comes back and says, I'm hoping to raise $500. I raise a couple $1,000s. I said, what happened? She says, you're not going to believe how many people this affects. I said, and I'm in the fitness business, and you hear about a lot of diseases, and let's face it, we've raised money for cancer and all these things, but people don't talk about diabetes.
You'll be fine. Just live with it. That's kind of like pushed under the rug a little bit. You'll be okay.
Well, it's what it is if you look at the statistics, that's right. First of all, unless you talk to somebody about it, they don't bring it up in conversation.
Nope.
I'm a cancer survivor, breast cancer survivor. They don't talk about diabetes. So I think it's something that needs to be discussed more, and we have to realize, and just so everybody understands the scope of this, in the United States there's close to 24 million people that have diabetes, but there's another like 16 or 17 million that have it and don't realize they have it, and another 56 million that are what they call pre-diabetes. So it usually comes from being overweight, and that creates
That's a lot of millions you just dropped.
I'll tell you, you add it up, and you're talking about 1 out of 4 Americans is at risk and either has or will have diabetes at this rate.
Who's most at risk?
The people that are overweight. And I'd like to make a clarification here, by the way, for those that have diabetes. There are really 2 types. There's type 1, which people have known as juvenile diabetes. I think it's kind of a misnomer because the belief is, you're born with it, and that's why you have it. And what does it mean when you have diabetes? It means your body, in that sense, type 1, does not produce insulin. It's like there's a lock, but there's no key to that lock to unlock that, which means that they need to have insulin injections and check their blood sugar to make sure that they're at a safe level all the time. This is a life or death thing for these people. And I will tell you, I've met a lot of people with type 1 that are actually in pretty good shape because they realize, this is my life. I can't save money and do the investing things that you guys want to do if I'm not around to do that. So that, believe it or not, only represents 5 to 10% of the entire population. The other 90 to 95% have type 2 diabetes, which is by and large controllable and doesn't have to happen. Now, not everybody, and what I'm learning, and I am still learning, I was at the Joslin Clinic for a full-day workshop. I deal with certified diabetes educators who are constantly telling me there's certain populations that don't have to be grossly obese to get it. But for those of us that are eating too much, have too much blood sugar in our system, doctor says, you know what, we checked your blood, you're diabetic, and that means you better lose weight, or you're going to have to go on pills or maybe even insulin.
Not a fun discussion to have with your doctor.
No, and for some people it's like, they're in denial. I have friends that are doctors that say, I can tell them everything, but they're not going to do it and do anything about it. For some other people, it's like, I'm going to go and get a workout routine, and I'm going to watch my diet. And I know a few people like that have lost weight. They say if you lose 7% of your body weight, you can overcome that. Get your blood sugar down to the point where you're not really, by definition, diabetic. But there's so many more people that have it and are just living with it. And so what happens is, and this is really the punchline, is that the doctor says, okay, you got a problem, I'm going to give you pills, and if that pill doesn't work, I'll give you another pill. And you'll keep taking these meds, and possibly for your whole life. Now, you add up the cost of what that is, and it will blow your mind.
Well, we need Frank Farley in here because Frank can be telling us, that $359 a month you're spending on pills, if you gave it to me and let me invest it every month, by year 10 with a 7% return, Frank could have it all figured out with you and tell you how much money you were spending.
And maybe that would motivate some people to actually want to get healthy and do it. This kind of goes back to the personal training thing, because I think that, I'm not going to name names, but a very well-known person who's pretty high up in the medical industry said to me, my perception is that you're expensive. I said, really? I said, what do you mean I'm expensive? He goes, well, personal training is expensive. A design program that's individualized for me is a lot of money. I said, so I've talked to several of your associates. They couldn't answer this question, but I've done some research. Tell me, what is the annual cost to support an individual that has diabetes? And you break it out. And you look at the additional cost for insurance attributed to that person, $13,300 a year of average cost, just insurance to cover that person. Now, if they're on meds and they have to have test strips and they have to be checked, you can add another $6,500 or more to that. Now you add the lost time at work. The average person takes 3 days off, sick days. They take 13 days. What is it costing the employer when you have a diabetic client who's taking 13 days off a year, an additional 10 days? I said, is it possible we could be talking as much as $25,000 a year? And I got a 40-year-old who's going to live for the next 40-plus years, and it's going to cost the insurance company and the system and us taxpayers who are helping to contribute, and us employers, $1 million over that person's lifetime. I said, I propose to you that if you wrote me a check for $10,000 and gave me that person to work with over in the next year or so, we lower his fat, his blood sugar, and get him off meds. Now you tell me who's expensive. He goes, you could very well possibly be the most cost-effective solution I've heard so far.
And, well, that makes sense. What I keep getting back to is folks that struggle to get up and walk around, folks that have a difficult time breathing, folks that never hit a golf ball or never hit a baseball or never run down a basketball court. They're not really happy people. They can't be jumping around having a great time because, that's right, they can't even jump around.
I agree, but I think what happens is, for some people, that's their normal way of being.
Path of least resistance.
It's like, well, I've always felt crappy, and this is how I've always looked, and, it's in my genetics and my family, whatever excuse it is. I think there has to be that aha moment where a person makes a change in their life. I want to relate a story that happened to me a week ago. My wife and I just celebrated our 30th wedding anniversary.
Congratulations.
Thank you. So I said, we got to get out of here because we're working all the time, and I've got to, I have to take a break. So I took her to Puerto Rico for 4 nights.
I was just going to say Canopy Lake Park for the.
Let's get back where there's more kids.
Where in Puerto Rico were you?
I don't think so.
Where in Puerto Rico were you?
We were about 45 minutes south of San Juan, near where there's a rainforest.
Mm-hmm.
So we were right on the ocean, and there's an actual Puerto Rico, for those of us who forget, is part of the United States.
Yes,
they just speak Spanish.
Yep.
But
very well too.
Very, very well. And the nicest people. And there was a rainforest across the street from where we stayed.
What is it? It's got a big famous name.
The rainforest.
Yeah, it's got a big famous name. I'm sorry, I'm drawing a blank as well.
Lokia.
Yes,
I think it is. So anyhow,
it's absolutely beautiful, by the way. Absolutely
you've been there?
Beautiful. Yes, I have, sir.
Well, so maybe you
just stop for the little taco place right there, going in right down right before you go right up the hill. There's a little taco place.
That's
right there. It's absolutely great.
That's right. And you're looking there. So you cross the street. There's a huge rain cloud. Like we could use that today. And we're getting doused. And then when I cross the street again, it's sunny and it's hot and it's humid. And you feel you're in this foliage where you're in the middle of the jungle. And then you go off to this one waterfall. But here's where the story is that my wife says, there's this great waterfall and everyone's walking to it. Sure, let's do that. Now, I exercise at least 5 times a week. And
3 hours later, you're still walking.
Right, you're on this path that's maybe a foot wide, and you've got people coming and going on both sides.
Yep.
And we're going downhill the whole way, 30 minutes. It could be a mile, slow walk. And there's people smiling, and they got their kids, and they're 50, 100 pounds overweight. And I'm like, you're going to die on the way back.
You're going up the hill.
And quite frankly, I'm walking down, and I see people struggling. And I stopped to say to some of them, I said, may I make a suggestion? You really might want to turn around because you're going to really have a hard time coming back. They said, I can't do this. I had no idea how out of shape I was. I want to see this beautiful waterfall, and I cannot make this trip. This is what I'm talking about. It's about living. I mean, do we want to be this way and feel this way our whole lives? And it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how much overweight somebody is. They can be better, and we can help them.
And that's what it really comes down to. They can be better, and that's what I'm getting at. The misery that they must find in everyday chores. You watch the people on The Biggest Loser, just what they're picking for lunch after a while gives them a little pat on the back. And we were talking about that earlier, about how when you're trying to get out of your financial doldrums, how great that is. A little bit of positive feedback goes a long, long way.
Well, totally. And I think what's happened is just diet. The word diet. I hate that word. In fact, it's not in our vocabulary. The word is proper nutrition.
The word die is in the word diet.
Yeah. You want to die when you think about some of those diets that are out there. And what happens is we go through life trying different things, and if we don't have positive feedback and it doesn't work, we quit on it. And yeah, sure, that makes sense because it's human nature. But if you have some success, then all of a sudden you go, wow, you know what? I found if I made these little changes, and we take a 3-step approach to what we do. We combine strength training with cardiovascular training and coach around proper nutrition. I like to say we take a holistic approach. So there's no meds involved.